car slowly rolled to a stop, the worn brakes creaking as the gravel crackled underneath the wheels. I cautiously put the car into park as the dense fog outside beaded the frosted windows with water. The playground in front of me was rusted, broken, and sick, wilted over like a forest of dead trees. A light wind swayed the gnarly foundation of what was once a swing set, leaving the now empty chain tendrils to sway silently in the mist. The seesaw groaned. The rideable spring ponies lay like dismembered corpses, scattered in the gravel like victims of a slaughter. Only one still stood, but even then, its eyes were hollow and white, the paint long since stripped away. The rain made a loud metallic ting with every drop on this sickened memory, this location swollen and bloated with darkness. My door opened with great effort, the car alerting me that I was leaving my keys behind as the gravel parted underfoot. The mist churned around my reflective, black vehicle, and in turn, it seemed to quaver like a mirage as it receded into the distance. The headlights soon became disembodied specters, no attachment in this world as they radiated into the fog. My breathing was slowly escalating, my awareness of this fact only worsening the sickness in my chest. God, how I hated this place. Coming here was meant to ease my fears. Confronting this place again was supposed to prove my delusive memories false. Kids make things up. They hear things, fabricate stories, and stretch the truth. An overactive imagination is what I had. Nothing more. Coming back was how I would prove this to myself, make the nightmare stop and learn what a fool I was. The gravel softly crunched under my weight as I approached the swing set, my hands sweaty despite the cold. The chains hung like horrid creatures, black serpents awaiting my demise, but they did not lash out as I approached, did not bare their fangs nor coil into the air. They simply hung silently, heavy with water and dew. There were no seats left to sit on, no rubber intact enough to support my weight. So I sat on the cold gravel slowly, my hands gripping the dangling tendrils as if to swing. Then I closed my eyes, focused on my breathing. I softly counted down from 10 in my head, my numb lips mumbling the silent words. And then I took a deep breath, the cold air sliding down my shaking throat. My next words crawled from the recesses of my brain. I could feel each of their 8 legs brush against my lips as I spoke them. Hey, Josh. The soundlessness enveloped me like walls of water, the faint patter of the rain on the metal now like muffled thundering as my blood prickled with ice. This silence would continue indefinitely, I knew. Nothing would come forth, no strange sound to split apart the driving rain, this steady rhythm. Or rather, that's what I hoped, pleaded for. Even if I did hear something approaching, like we did all those years ago, I doubted I would let myself admit it. There was nothing here. No one but me. Thankfully, the silence remained consistent, absolute, stagnant all around me. My eyes slowly opened, the ill gray scene rushing into my view once again. Empty. I was all alone out here, No black forms within the mist, no horrid faces gazing at me through the cover of rain. I breathed deeply, my voice refusing to be as strong as I willed it to be, as I stammered out into the air. Hey, buddy. The void stared at me, the mist slowly curling around me as if I was confined within an expansive snow globe. Listen, I stammered into the nothingness, the various decayed playground structures catching my eye as they shifted slightly in the wind. I'm sorry. The seesaw groaned with deep inner percussions, the wind rushing through what was left of the playground, the rain lashing at my exposed face like razors. My eyes sunk to the ground, the stillness eating away at my heart before my lids slowly slipped closed again. The darkness decayed my vision into nothingness, and my breathing steadied after some time. Then rustling, distant and faint. My heart lurched, my veins closing off. My eyes snapped open, the scene splintering into view, just as vacant as before as I spun my head in panic towards the sounds. Surely I was imagining things just like when we were kids. I couldn't let this get to me. I let my eyes close again, squeezing them tight, the act somehow allowing me to focus on the surrounding area more clearly. I listened intently, my ears straining to hear over the sound of my own pulsing blood. There it was again, rustling, something in the distant field, stirring as if waking from a sleep. My eyes snapped open again and the sound stopped, my vision cutting out the noise. This couldn't be happening. This wasn't real. This stupid game we played as kids in the dark of night, the things our horribly twisted minds came up with, none of it had been true. Close your eyes, we had said. Count to 10. Call him then. We used to dare each other to see how long we could keep our eyes closed, hallucinating approaching footsteps before our terror forced our lids open. It was sick, deranged, and cruel. Josh had been a kid in our school, a sad, unextraordinary background character whom few of us knew and no one talked to. Rumor quickly spread one day of his suicide. The way they found his pale corpse strung up at the old playground. It had been there for several days with no one noticing his absence. We shouldn't have played that stupid game. We knew it was wrong. And when the rumors were confirmed to be all too true, we instantly stopped. Those in my friend group, at least. The media showed all too clearly, however, that by that time, the game had spread beyond our control. Headlining the newspaper one morning was the story of yet another suicide at the location. The body having been discovered by a group of teens who admitted to having been at the location for a game they called It Approaches. A dare involving an urban legend about the malevolent spirit of a child named Josh. He haunted the location after being dismembered. Slabs of his flesh still rotted away within each of the pieces of equipment, his heart supposedly stuffed inside the hollow bars of the swing set frame. We, of course, knew this was merely an account of his suicide, warped to become some horrid, over-the-top ghost tale. It made us sick, and thankfully, after the second suicide, the officials saw it as a spot for potentially more copycats and sealed it off from the public, letting it fall into decay. That's all it was. Some game we played that got way out of hand. There was never any truth to it. Sure, in those first few nights, closing our eyes and imagining something rushing towards us, the footsteps seemed as real as our own voices. Sure, all of our accounts were the same, our description of the sounds eerily similar. But we would have believed anything at that age. The group mentality was stronger than any of our own common sense. So why then, just now, why did it still sound like it did all those years ago? No pressuring friends by my side, no recent ghost stories to make my paranoia spike. Why could I still hear something? Plain as a whispered voice in my ear, something was coming towards me from out in the field. Shuffling at first, now running. Nothing rushed into view when my eyes snapped open, but as soon as they closed, the horrid, gangly, blackened form squirmed into view, its footsteps all too clear as I imagined it tearing towards my crouched, vulnerable form. Suddenly, it got so close it hit gravel. The gravel of the playground. It was mere feet from me. My eyes flashed open and I scrambled to my feet in a panic. Only one other kid had ever made it this far. His eyes had flown open just like mine, and he had scrambled to his feet just as I had, only he was screaming. He ran as fast as he could away from this place, as far as he could get. We teased him, of course, but deep down, I think we were a little scared too. That kid had never been one to show fear, always less than level-headed and full of pride. He didn't hang out with us much after that, and shuffling in the gravel had a tendency to send him on another episode. Not only sounds. The kid wasn't afraid of what he couldn't see, he assured us. My eyes were wide with my attempts to stifle my panic as I slowly backed away from the sounds and towards my car. The mist was so thick that I couldn't be sure. Not only sounds. That kid had night terrors up until the day we parted ways. His parents had even sent him to several professionals. Not only sounds, he had said in his panicked delirium. Sounds wouldn't scare him. No. When the thing reached the playground and its foot shuffled against the gravel, he had sworn he had seen something. Something horrible. He wouldn't want to remember it. The thought scared him more than he cared to admit. Not the face of Josh nor anyone we had known. Not quite human, but uncanny in its closeness. When he thought he had seen it, screamed bloody murder and darted towards where we knew the sounds to come from. He had said something. Something I didn't understand until this very moment, as I continued to back up from the sounds. A trick, he had screamed. The sounds are a lie. My backpedaling legs scrambled to slow down, my heart stopping in my chest. The world heaved into stagnation as the mist lay still and darkness crept into my peripherals. Hot exhaust breathed on my neck despite how my truck was still far away. The shadow of a noose flickered in the blackness. We had never seen it approaching, never had a face to put with our fears, because when we turned towards where the sounds came from, we had been looking the wrong way.